have Dorothy Adams and Eric Anderson. Dorothy Adams is from the Salt Lake Valley Health Department, and she's worked there for over 25 years. She began Utah's first household hazardous waste program in 1989 with a small one-day collection event. Since then, it's expanded into multiple permanent facilities for everything from antifreeze to pharmaceuticals. So we'll have Dorothy speak first, and then we'll move on to a presentation from Eric Anderson about Deseret Industries marketing and recycling services. And Eric Anderson has over 25 years of sales management and operations experience. During the past 7 years, he has developed a keen knowledge of the electronics and general recycling industries, both in operations and sales. And he's the manager for recycling service for all 43 Deseret Industries stores throughout the western United States and the Humanitarian Center in Utah. So we welcome these two speakers. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Oops, we're not in the middle. I am not.
Okay. It's my fault because I pulled this out before.
Okay, well, electronics. I'm just going to go over briefly. A lot of you obviously understand the problems with electronics, but for those of you who may not, I'm going to go over that briefly and then just kind of give you an idea of what is going on in Utah. It's one of the fastest growing waste streams. I think we spoke a little bit about that in one of the previous sessions. Kim from EPA was talking about how we're always making newer and better. So every year it seems like what we had becomes obsolete. So it's one of the fastest growing waste streams. It's making newer and better stuff every year. It's a hazard to sit in the landfill because they contain a lot of heavy metals. A lot of the stuff that was being made now too is made not to last. You know, the new TVs, the big TVs, we're already seeing those in the electronic scrap. They just don't last like the old ones used to last. But they contain a lot of heavy metals and they're just sitting in landfills. And it's a waste. Obviously the heavy metals can be recycled, so to have those materials just ending up there, it just is very wasteful. So Utah very much is, I work a lot with household hazardous waste, and we kind of look at what's going on in the other parts of the country. Those people move into Utah, and then they call health departments throughout the state and ask, okay, so what are you doing in your community? We responded to people asking how they could get rid of the electronic scrap. We weren't taking it to our household hazardous waste program at the time because it is a very expensive waste stream to dispose of properly. We started holding one-day collection events with the state, actually. The state would go to different places in the state, hold one-day collection events. We had good participation when we didn't charge. We actually tried events where we charged people, and those weren't as successful. But definitely got the feeling from the amount of calls that we were getting that people wanted a place to get rid of these materials responsibly, and the concern about them taking up very valuable space in our landfills. As a result of the one-day collection events and the growing problem with e-scrap, a committee was formed, and it was representative of people throughout the state, different local health departments, different public works departments, the State Department of Environmental Quality, just to sit down and kind of figure out what can be done in Utah and looking at what was being done in other states. And at that time already, we were seeing legislation in other states which actually mandated that manufacturers pay the cost for recycling the materials they're making. Product stewardship, as many of you may understand that terminology, but people who are companies that make hard to dispose of materials, again with household hazardous waste we run into it all the time, very expensive to get rid of properly, but then it falls on local health departments, local taxpayers to pay for those programs and just don't have the funding to do that. So other states were starting forms of legislation, product stewardship, which actually required people who make the stuff to pay to get rid of it properly. So we looked at those other programs and kind of what would work in Utah. Utah being a big state with population bases, are not through large, vast areas. So the big metropolitan areas, transportation, I'm sure with all of the recycling, workshops has been a theme that it's very expensive to go to the more rural areas. So what works in a metropolitan area may not work in the more rural areas of the state. As a result of the work from the committee, legislation was actually proposed in 2010, which would follow the product stewardship model with some tweaking that would make it work more uniquely for Utah. Surprisingly, it passed through the House. We were very happy with that and really actually thought we were on our road to success with this. And then I think it got the attention of the manufacturers because, you know, Utah is typically not a state they have to watch, but this did get their attention and it sat in the Senate. So never went anywhere other than that in 2010. But as a result of that, we really wanted to see the legislation encompass some of the concerns maybe the manufacturers had, and so worked through the year to include in the legislation their concerns and thought we had put together a really good piece of legislation. But it did not go anywhere. When it was proposed in the legislature, it sat. And instead of that model legislation passing through, another piece of legislation passed through, which was actually written by the manufacturers, which essentially only requires that they put on a website where materials can be recycled. And actually doesn't even have to be free recycling. It can be places that charge you to take them. So not the type of legislation we were looking for. But one of the themes when you, up at the legislature that the manufacturers were saying, and they, you know, they pay to have very influential lobbyists come in. But one of their major themes was that you don't need to have mandating legislation in Utah. The mandating legislation is hard for us. We will voluntarily form partnerships with areas that are doing electronics recycling, and we will pay to get rid of that material for you. So you don't have to worry, this is what we'll do, and we really want to use Utah as a model for another type of program that will be successful. And, you know, so we were like, okay, you know, as we worked through this process, we spent a lot of time trying to make something that would work. I was like, okay, well, if you said that's what you're going to do, that is what we're going to make sure that you do. So Salt Lake County is not the largest in the county. We are the most populous in the county. We developed a partnership with Samsung. And Samsung actually came to us before the legislation was defeated and said that they would take over payment of our program. Which, you know, in my mind, as we were going through the legislation, I thought, you know, then they can go to the legislature and say they're paying for it and it's going to hurt our cause. But nonetheless, they came forward and they started paying for our program. We included the e-scrap collection in our household hazardous waste program actually in 2008. So as a county, we had decided that it was something we needed to divert and we were going to pay the cost of getting rid of that material. Knowing that it might very well be something we'd have to discontinue, which if we didn't receive additional funding. You never want to start something and then stop it, but understanding that it is a very expensive waste stream to get rid of, we weren't sure we would be able to cover that expense. In 2009, we collected 500,000 pounds at a cost of almost $100,000. In 2010, 714,000 pounds at a cost of $121,000, and Samsung actually went back and paid that. And then in 2011, they spent almost $130,000, and in 2012, they actually, as of 2012, they spent very close to $130,000 again. So we, as a result of that partnership, we've been very successful in having our program paid for. And one thing that we're really feel is important is that we want to make it very convenient. So we're continually working with Samsung to increase the number of collection points that we have. And right now in Salt Lake County, we have 5 permanent collection sites for e-scrap, 2 at our household hazardous waste facilities, and we have 3 at public works departments. We also have 12 collection events in the summer months where we collect household hazardous waste, and we also collect electronic scrap. And we're looking to have another collection site in 2 more collection sites actually coming on board for 2013. So as we asked Samsung, they're been very cooperative, but a big concern for us is Samsung takes all the waste. They don't just take Samsung products. They take Sony, they take everything. One of our bigger concerns is how long is Samsung going to want to do that if no other partnerships are being formed? So we're very concerned about that because it's an expensive program for us to take back on. But then also, I want to see it successful for the whole state, because that was something that was promised to us through this process, is that they would develop partnerships throughout the state. We're easier because we're populated, our transportation costs are less. We want to make sure that Moab and Price and all of those more remote areas are getting the services that they need. So as a result of that, our department, the Salt Lake Valley Health Department, put together a committee. I think I've become the Consumer Electronics Association's worst enemy. I think he probably thought we'd go away, but we haven't. So we put together a group of people throughout the state. I've actually gone through and identified people who will be good contacts for dealing with the Consumer Electronics Association. So, and when I say that, it has to be somebody that is willing to work with the person they have, and it's they have one person that arranges it for the whole state, and he has other states as well. But really to be resourceful and to keep on it, I guess is the best way to say it. Not to just call him once a year, but to really be on it, calling him monthly and find out where they're at. Because his responsibility is to find a manufacturer that will be matched up with your community. So this group, where we put together a group of identified people throughout the state who will take on that responsibility and who is passionate about it, really wants to see something work in their community. So far what we've seen, there are two other partnerships currently in the state, DI, and Eric will talk a little bit about that. DI gets a lot of things that people bring to them that aren't things that they can reuse, so they become a waste stream they have to get rid of. And DI was successful in developing a partnership where they're paying, is it half of what you incurred right now, Eric, or is it a little bit more?
It's a little more.
A little more. So they're not paying the whole cost, and that's one of our big goals with the Consumer Electronics Association. And also one thing to note, when we meet as a committee, we ask the Consumer Electronics Association to kind of give us an update. So how's it going with DI? Are you getting someone to pay 100% of the cost? You know, what are you doing in Summit County? Those kinds of things, making them accountable, because we want to see what other states are getting in Utah. There's no reason we shouldn't. We should get what they're being provided. So the DI, about a little more than half, and then there's one other partnership at the Davis County Burn Plant, close to here, where their e-scrap is collected for free. But that is the only collection point in this area. There are still many government agencies that are paying to have their e-scrap collected. That's probably more common than not. There has been some expansion of the Best Buy and Staples stores, which is great. Best Buy does take them back now. They don't take the huge televisions. Oops, they don't take the huge televisions, but they'll take the majority of types of televisions. They used to take them and charge $10, but now they no longer have a fee. And the rural areas, again, are still lacking in opportunities. There was a partnership formed in Washington County, and that dissolved, so that no longer exists. So what we did is, what our goals of the committee, number one, were to get good contacts from throughout the state, to put this map on the DEQ website, and actually as you zero in, you'll be able to see what recycling opportunities are available to you in the different parts of the state, and then also the contact person for that area. So this is work in progress, and hopefully within the next couple of months it will be up and running. Just to give you an idea of where we're at, or how we're measuring, I guess, against other states, we have a population of about 2.8 million. Rough estimate, and that's a very rough estimate, of 7.5 million pounds recycled of electronic scrap, and that's a hard number to get because nobody tracks it. Really what we did is we took how much we collected and how much DI collected, and then kind of took in some other information from other areas and came up with that number. In comparison, the state of Washington has a population of 6.8 million people, and they reported in 2011 28 million pounds. They have mandating legislation which makes manufacturers pay for recycling programs. So Washington has a little more than double the population with almost 4 times the amount of recycling that we have. So our goal as a committee, and one of my goals is to make sure that our recycling rates are in line with states that have mandating legislation. There are 23 states that have mandating legislation. There's no reason we shouldn't get those same opportunities, and there's no reason any small community, any entity, public entity, should be using their tax dollars to pay for these programs. So, a question that I asked of everybody who is involved in these types of programs, you know, what is being done in your community? And who is responsible for coordinating? What might work in Salt Lake County in terms of having permanent collection programs may not be what Moab needs. Moab may need just a scheduled series of one-day collection events, not a permanent facility, but it's really on, I really feel that the responsibility of knowing what your community needs is on somebody within your community. To wait for the Consumer Electronics Association to do that for you, you'll be waiting till the end of time. But they have shown that they are definitely willing to work with us. I think, and I've taken it on where I will coordinate and communicate extensively with our contact there to make sure that they follow up on what they've said they're going to do. But it's really important that you get involved, and I think this is it's a good example of where if you do get involved, you show enthusiasm, you figure out what you need, there's a possibility that you're going to get this taken care of. And being that it is an expensive waste stream to get rid of, what a great way to save some money and use that money for other things that you can't get collected. I mean, being in household hazardous waste, there's tons of things that I can't, you know, my luck in getting a pesticide company to come back and pay to get rid of their old pesticides is very remote at this point. But because there are models of how e-scrap has been addressed by other manufacturers, well, I'm going to jump on that, and I would encourage other people to do the same. Walter Alcorn is the person to contact from CEA. I would encourage you to work through, he knows, you know, I've identified people who he should be working with. So if you are in a community and I haven't spoken to you, let me know and I will make you the contact or a co-contact with whoever I have. And then greenergadgets.org is a website put together by the CEA. It's a great website, actually. It shows a lot of what's going on for recycling, for e-scrap in your community. And if what you have isn't listed there, then definitely Walter's the person to contact for that. Okay? Do you guys have any questions? Okay, Art, you're on.
Oh, I have some questions.
My name's Eric Anderson, and I'm with Deseret Industries, and I like to walk and talk. Has anyone seen Brian Regan? Walkie and talkie? Oh, it's the last part of the day, so I'm going to do what I can to keep you awake. As Emily said, my background is basically electronics recycling, and that background is here in the state of Utah, where I did work with the company here for 4 years and was transferred to Colorado, where I spent the last 2 years. And then this last August moved back and took this position with Deseret Industries. Before I get started into the role of recycling, I need to give you a little bit of information about Deseret Industries. For one, how many people here have ever been to one, donated to one, or worked at one? And every hand should go up, okay? As mentioned, there's actually 42. We closed this store down in Delta because they were only open 1 day a week. There are 42 Deseret Industry stores in the western United States. The farthest east are here in Utah, and that we have 21 stores in Utah. Deseret Industries' purpose is to train and help people find and obtain jobs. It's not to sell things and to make money. It is to find and help people who would normally not be able to find a job get jobs, and get out in the community. And the reason I say that is because that is what drives our stores. All of our stores are self-sufficient. We do not receive money from the church. They are all self-sufficient within themselves. The only thing we get money for is if we do decide to move or build a new building. Everything else is paid within the church or within the Deseret Industries. But that makes it unique for our division, the recycling division. And that division is huge. It's myself and Robert Gardner. That's it. We control the recycling efforts for 42 stores and the humanitarian center here in Salt Lake City. It was mentioned about collection events. Has everyone been to a collection event before? It's mostly electronics. On a good collection event, Dorothy, how many cars do you see?
About 80, 85 in about 3 hours.
Okay. We see 200 cars a day, 52 weeks a year, 52 weeks out of the year. It's about 2.6 million cars go through our stores in a year. Out of that, when they're going through, they are dropping off donations. That's what funds our store, donations. We do not turn them away, but we use them, and they are sacred to us because donations are what make our stores run. We do not turn them down. If they're broken or not working, then it's our responsibility. We've taken that upon ourselves to deal with it, but we want donations. But with that comes things that can't be used or sold on the floor, and that's where we come into play. So what do? We recycle. Now, the recycle triangle involves three things: reduce, reuse, and recycle. And what's a little bit different than you might see. The reduction, though, is the same. It is to keep material from going to the landfill. And how do we do that? We do it through reuse. That is the main thing that we do. We reuse the donations that come into our stores. They get used on a sales floor. If they don't get sold, then they get packaged up and sent to the humanitarian center here in Salt Lake, where they are used for humanitarian needs. And then at that point, it comes to our department, and we take care of it in a proper manner. So we do recycle only those things that can't be reused or resold as a usable product. Oh wait, here's my first little thing. Can anyone tell me how many pounds we recycled last year as a Deseret Industry? Closest guess, or the first person, just throw out a number.
21 million.
Well, you know, because I told you.
What she say, 21 million?
You want 21 million? There you go. You're way off. Okay. And just as of this morning, this increased by 10 million pounds. Because I just got numbers on metal. We kept 67 to 70 million pounds out of the landfill this last year, which actually roughly is closer to 40,000 tons of material.
That's all locations?
That's all locations. But you have to remember, 21 of those stores are in Salt Lake. So majority of it is in Utah.
Yeah, not 21.
Oh, what did I say? Yeah. Well, pretty close. But in Utah. That's about a 58% of the waste that was stayed out of the landfill. And the reason I'm giving you these numbers later, I'm going to tell you what our goal is. So what we do is we reuse clothing. As you can see here, it's put into bales. Those bales come to the humanitarian center, and we employ people to go and sort through that. I talked about how we train and prepare people to receive jobs. Within 1 year, last year, the humanitarian center found 129 jobs for people, or 129 people found jobs through us. That was in one location. It's around 2,000, is that about right, Rob? 2,000 to 2,500 system-wide that we found jobs for people through our program. So we do clothing, we do shoes. Can anyone tell me, where's the blue? Okay, can anyone tell me what that says?
Single shoes.
Single shoes. I bring that up because it's very interesting. We are able to give away our single shoes. So we go down to the lowest, I guess, denominator that we can find, and we go out and find uses for this. We have people in the Middle East that will take this, line it in a warehouse that's bigger than this floor of this building, and then they start matching it up. There's a 9 black high top, here's a 9 black high top. Match it up, and then they're able to sell it in open air markets for about $1. That's a lot of money to a lot of people. So we take it paired, single, might have a rip in the knee, but we're able to find homes for it. As is material, a lot of the household things that you find, we were able to find downstream for this as well. Some of the things that we're working on to expand this. Books. We're able to take books that aren't able to be sold on the floor, and we have a home for these. Most of these you're going to find on Amazon for $1 or $2. We don't do that. We have others that do it for us, or that we get the product to. So the material, the biggest thing that we do is humanitarian. They get baled in these 100-pound bales. We keep about 400 on hand at a
4,000.
time. That can be used throughout the world. We share within our stores. There's some stores that they just get more than they can take. It comes to our place. We store it. At the highest point, we have 6,250 Gaylord boxes of material that we have available to our stores. It'll be gone and completely emptied by the end of April, out into the stores again. We also share Gaylord boxes and pallets. That might not seem like a big thing, but 6,250 is a huge cost savings if we can continue to reuse these instead of having to buy new ones, which unfortunately comes out of our budget. And this, I'm sorry, this number is wrong. These are actually about doubled. We send 16 to about 24 loads every week that go throughout the world for humanitarian needs. Some buyers, other thrift stores, and street merchants are able to use the material that we provide for them. We do recycle. We do recycle electronics, as Dorothy said. I think in 2011, our numbers were about 5 million pounds that we recycled. 2012, we recycled 8 million pounds just in the state of Utah. We are the largest collector of electronics in the state.
So what do you do with it?
I'm sorry, what?
What do you do with it?
We have partnerships with recyclers. We have different recyclers that we use, not only in Utah, but in other locations. This is a picture of someone going to a DI. Just a laugh.
Going to or coming from?
We actually do metal recycling.
It's like my neighbor's truck.
Well, yeah, it looks like everybody's truck on their way to the DI. That's what we get, and that's fine. And this is metal. We do recycle metal. Each of our stores have a container where they go through and put what in there. Most of what it is not usable. It just came. So what does our future hold? We do have a future, and we're always looking at new things and new materials that we have to deal with and that we need to take care of. One thing before I go into that, as I mentioned before, we work with training people to get them into the workplace. Our stores are set up in a way to help that happen. We have processes in place to help them learn how to come to work on time, do their job, be a good employee, and to put in 8 hours a day of work. That requires on our part that we don't have a lot of decision making, that the process flows very easily and very quickly. And so when we introduce a new process into the system, we have to make it fit within an existing process. So it's not just a matter of saying we are going to start pulling out paper and recycling it. We have to see how it's working within our system and make sure that it doesn't disrupt that system. Because again, our priority is to train these individuals to get out into the workforce. But what we are looking at in the future, excuse me, is more recycling. Some of the things that we're looking at, we medium as is. So right now we're doing a lot of housewares, plates, handbags, wicker baskets, kind of that section you go into. Well, I know I did when I was single, and I'd buy one plate and one glass and one fork and spoon a night. That doesn't stay on our shelves forever, but there's some other things that we're looking at. One of those is what we call medium as is, which is a little bit larger. Kids' bicycles, small desks. What are some of the others, Robert? I'm going blank.
Children toys and chairs, end tables.
So anything really that we can fit into a Gaylord and we can send off to those that'll take it. We're now implementing that to go in. We're looking at large furniture. We do have those that are requesting us to give them our large furniture. You can, as we were talking earlier with John from Momentum, it's easier to put 3 bales of clothing in that weigh about 1,000 pounds each, so 3,000 pounds versus a 300-pound sofa. Doesn't quite equate very well. You can't get as much on, but we are looking at doing that. And one of the other items that we're looking at is baby items. We have a large demand in South America for baby items. Our stores cannot resell that by law. So we are looking into, is there a legal ramification if we're able to get these to another country. But that's something we're looking into right now.
So Eric, right now, they end up in the landfill?
They do end up in the landfill. We run into that same problem with mattresses. I know that there is a mattress bill that's being looked at, and we are involved with that. Legally, we can't resell a mattress. We're not going to turn someone away if they bring that to us, but then it becomes our responsibility to deal with it properly, and we have to be ready to do that. And so we are working with Ashley on the mattress recycling bill to see how that will work. Some of the other material that we are looking at is cardboard. And again, I'm going to probably mention these things, and you're going to think, well, this stuff's easy. Right now, it doesn't fit within our process. And so we're trying to find ways, Robert and I are trying to find ways to make it fit and get that to work. So cardboard, glass is a big one. Right now, we're able to send our glass with these as-is materials, but you can imagine that it gets jostled around. It's easy to break. Amazingly, not a lot of it does break. In fact, our director went to Guatemala on a trip, went to an open-air market, picked up a glass, and on the bottom of it was a Deseret Industries sticker in an open-air market. So they do make it there. Plasticware, Utah Tupperware. The biggest problem that we have is ceramics. I have not been able to find anyone that will take ceramics. We're still looking into it, but you can imagine that we get a lot of it. And so again, it goes in our as-is now, but it has more of a tendency to break than some of the other items. We want to try to find a better home for it. And then, of course, paper. So those are some of the things that we're looking at and introducing into our process to be able to recycle. That was a heart, just so you know, because I did this on Valentine's Day. So, our goal is to be down. Now, you remember I showed you the 58%. That's where we are at now, and it's a couple percentage points higher. Our goal is to be down to 90% of our material being recycled. And we feel that we can do that. And that is something that was set by the director of Deseret Industries and the management. So what that will mean, of course, is that only 10% will be going to the landfill. So if you want to take the numbers to the 57 and 60 million, you can figure out that's quite a few pounds that we will be diverting from the landfill. We are taught, and we are a church-based organization. We are taught every tree, every mountain, every bird in the air testifies of our Heavenly Father's power. By appreciating nature and treating the earth with respect, we show the Lord our gratitude for everything He has given us. This was actually in the church publication of the Ensign for the month that goes to our whole church, 14 million plus members just this last month. Our church is dedicated, not only Deseret Industries, to living this principle of respecting the earth. Deseret Industries is very dedicated to making sure that we can keep the material out of the landfill that can be. And we are working the hardest we can at it. It's not a fast process, but it is a process that we feel can happen and will take place. We are very much involved with organizations like with Dorothy in trying to find ways, especially in the rural areas where we can help in that. We do have stores in those areas, and like I said, we do not turn away anything that comes to our dock, and even hazardous material. And we have to find a way to make sure it's taken care of properly, and we do. And we will continue to do that to be able to get down to that 90% that will be recycled and only 10% going to the landfill. I went through faster than I thought. Does anyone have any questions?
Question for you. What kinds of efforts are you making now to keep people from bringing you junk, per se? I mean,
We don't. Our store in West Valley, it's on 5600 West. Those of you that work out in that way, it's the same road that the landfill's on. We'll receive more unusable than any other store in our system because it's on the way to the landfill. The one thing that we did find and Goodwill has just now started putting in place that they will not accept certain things unless you pay them, mainly electronics. We found that if we tried to do that, our donations dropped. One thing that we've seen that when people load up their car, and I can guarantee you, everyone in this room who's donated to DI has done this, because I've done it. Before and after I started working. You load your car to go there, and the last thing you want to do is say, I want to go to Deseret Industries, and I'm only going to drop off this box. And then I've got to drive down the street, and I've got to drop off this box. And then I got to go across town to drop off this box. If we say that we will not take some of those things, and that's what has to happen, there's a good chance we won't get any of it. And again, if we do not get donations, our stores do not run. So we feel it's worth taking it all and having the things in place to take care of it properly to get the donation. Charles?
have you tried in any stores, like I'm thinking maybe California or something, where they do more of this, but of having recycle bins at your store locations so that people could, drop off plastic, so that it's a one-stop shop?
No, we haven't. And the reason being is we receive so much that we could not handle, if we start advertising that we are a collection point, we wouldn't be able to handle it at all. We see about a 3.5% increase of donations every year. So that means at minimum there's a 3.5% increase every year of material that is not going to be used that we have to do it. I will tell you, our stores are built to achieve our goal of getting people trained and getting them ready for the workforce. That's what our stores are built for. We don't have a lot. We don't have a lot of space in there because we are storing what can go out on the sales floor, and we have a small amount of space to be able to store stuff to go out. Right now, and Robert does this way more than I do, is managing that material, and so there's just enough in it to get onto a truck and get it out, and that's about all we can hold. So we are literally 16 to 24 trucks just out of the humanitarian center that we are sending out weekly of material.
What happens when your Samsung relationship goes south?
That's not ours.
Yeah, we're Samsung, you have MRM, right?
We have a few that we use. I will tell you right now, that only covers our transportation. That's it. Because we do pull in our rural stores, come into others, and labor. So we do have some manufacturers, but they're not covering everything.
So none of it goes to the landfill at this moment?
As far as what?
E-waste.
E-waste?
Yeah.
It's not supposed to. It's 42 stores. I can't be at all of them. But the process that we have right now is no, they don't.
But the goal is that the manufacturers will cover their entire costs so that they're not having to pay.
82 million pounds in one state's a lot of material to have to cover.
How do you handle all your chemicals and paints and solvents and stuff?
We have, each store does have a plan in place where if they get that in, they're supposed to keep it in a separate area. And we do have a EMS, as Kim Bartles mentioned, environmental management system that comes out and takes care of it.